First things first, got to give you an update on the gas tank. Okay, a little update on the fuel tank. So, I had this a little backwards due to the fact that there is a ball in here for the vent. So this would be your feed, this would be your return, and this would be your vent. So basically when the fuel is sloshing back and forth, the ball will go up to make sure no fuel comes out. So this is your vent, return, feed, and for the fuel leveling device in here, descending unit, I checked it out. I did a ohms test on it, and basically for a Starion, when it's full, it would be 0 ohms. And then as the fuel goes down, it gets resistance, which brings down the gauge. This is an American style. It works backwards. So when it's full, it's at 90 ohms of resistance, and when it's empty, it's at 0 ohms of resistance. So what I did to this one is I flipped the arm backwards to read backwards for our Japanese cars. So right now the resistance should be 90. And I'm gonna double check that now. Okay, so it should read 90 ohms of resistance. Yep, 91 ohms of resistance. So that will bring your fuel gauge to E. And when it's full, it should be 0 ohms of resistance. So me flipping the arm the opposite way worked. And of course I'm gonna do further testing, but I would say this issue is solved. Excellent. All right, so for those of you who modify your air can, something like this, don't do that. It's a waste of time, cutting. Don't waste your time. Okay, so what you want to do, right, is you want to unbuckle it, and this only works if you have the K&N air filter. So, here's your air math, here's your filter, right? On top, there's 4 screws. Take them off. All right. Okay, now let's see what we have. Bingo, right? So what you're gonna wanna do is take this bad boy, push the tongs out, just like this. I have it the wrong way, goes this way. Done, right? So then, your air filter goes like this. And now you tell me what's easier. Doing this modification, or sitting there cutting a hole in this. Pointless. So once you get to this point, you can find where the filter mats up to the back plate, put in some screws around, just maybe 3 or 4, and then done. This won't come off, and you get maximum airflow, obviously. That's how you do it. Don't waste your time with this. So we got the turbo off, And I can definitely check the condition of the cylinders from their exhaust. And they were definitely running a little hot. So black soot is normal. White means that basically it wasn't getting any fuel to these two cylinders, or it was getting water instead. So that's good to know. So the head gasket probably was blown in the rear. No big deal. But anyway, as you can see, I took off the original turbo, and I'm not going to be using that. So if anybody's interested, let me know. I have no idea if it's good or bad. Kind of a risk you would take by purchasing it, but seems okay. Looks fairly clean-ish and has a little bit of shaft play. And then not only shaft play that way, you have to check shaft play forwards and backwards. And oh yeah, it has a good amount forward and backwards. So the thrush washer is probably crap, but same way you can check the condition of the engine is the same way you can check the condition of the turbo, and this one seems to be okay because there is no oil on that rear wheel, which would have the turbo smoke. So I would say so-so condition. And also you could see I took that turbo off without any penetrant oil. And I mean, if you're lucky enough, you get a simple wrench like this, pop it on there, use you a heavy duty hammer like so, and tapping it will crack each and every one of them loose, hopefully, if you're lucky, because I got all of these main ones done, that one there, and this one over here. But this one ended up stripping, so I'm gonna cut that one off. And I'm gonna take these 3 screws out, for instance, just to show you how to crack it loose. So once it cracks loose, you can take it off like normal. So this one's not rusted in, this one's not stuck. And you just take it out like normal. So yeah, so now that this part is off, I'm going to be cutting this piece, and also I'm going to be fitting in the T3 flange on this area right here. Now, if the T3 flange fits in between these studs with no problem, then we're good to go. If not, I'm going to cut the studs off and weld the inside and outside. So no big deal there. So this part is almost ready for the flange. And let's move on to the next thing. Okay, so now we're gonna prep this head to be laid down on the block. So we're using a plastic scraper, like so. And we're gonna scrape all of the old gasket material off as much as possible. This is not gonna be the final step. This is actually just one of 2. So, once we scrape this down good enough, as it is plastic, we're gonna flip the blade. Just like that. Look at that. You don't want none of that. Alright. And we're going to do the same thing to the block. Alright. right. Get all up in them nooks and crannies. So this is going to be just to get it running type situation. Just for now, we're gonna find a better, more secure location to rip apart this engine and dive into it. Right now we're doing this outside, and it's about to start storming, so we're gonna basically do a quick job of assembling this motor, get it running and everything, move it to a better location instead of towing it, and yeah, we'll take it from there and get this thing running right. But I left off last video with doing the vacuum line, and I just want to make it clear that I just did the passenger side. The driver's side is something that's going to come together as soon as I rebuild the intake manifold, and there's going to be a series on that too, just so you guys know how to do it, what you're replacing, and why. I'm also going to do some modifications to the intake manifold to alleviate blowing gaskets in it, period. Put some WD-40 and a little Scotch-Brite pad. It's plastic, so it's not going to harm the aluminum. And we're just going to scrub. Alright. And then when we're done, to remove the WD-40, we're going to use some throttle body cleaner. And it should be right where we want it to be. Alright, that's looking good. I'm going to dig deeper, so yep, I'll be right back. So now, after the scrub-a-dub-dub is getting jet cleaned by the carb cleaner, and this will make it a perfect surface to mat the head gasket down to. Alrighty, and same deal for the head. And now, I don't know if you can see, but we're losing light, but now what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay some adhesive down on this gasket because I don't believe in putting in dry gaskets. Plus, we didn't do any of the machine shop work that's needed, like resurfacing the head and whatnot. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put this together with some Indian head shellac, and it's very cheap, but it actually works extremely well. So yep, so basically what you're going to want to do is do both sides, the downside and the upside, and when you lay the head down, torque it down like normal. And usually I recommend doing a heat cycle, you know, turn on the car, let it warm up, and you know, find its permanent placement. But it's gonna dry up in a decent amount of time anyway, so that should be good enough. So let me lube this thing up and I'll be right back. Alright, so it's gonna look something like this. And this is a really good temporary solution to get this car running and everything. And I'm about to lay the head down, drop in the studs, tighten those up, and we should be good to go. It's a little backyard engineering, but definitely worth it. Ran out of light completely, but she is sitting down perfectly, and we're gonna clean up the threads on the head studs and load those in. Okay, so we finished chasing the threads on these, lubed them up, and they are ready to go in. All right, so let's install these. I'm not gonna torque them down just yet, but I am gonna tighten them down and take it from there. Okay, so move to the next one. So we're gonna do this in a pattern, and looking at it from the top, you're gonna go installation of cylinder head bolts. This is the pattern to live by. Pause it if you need it. All right, so it is torqued down, and just like I said, this is a preliminary torque. Okay, in my 89 Starion manual, this is book number 1, which is engine and chassis and body. All right, so if we look here, the head studs are supposed to be torqued down to 65 to 72 foot-pounds. That's cold. And then hot, it's 73 to 79. So there's a cold one when you assemble, which we are way below that. I got that one torqued down to 40 just for right now. And then I'm going to do the cold torque next video, and hot torque obviously when we fire up the engine. And then last but not least, you want to put these two in right there, and I'm going to show you the torque specifications for all of it, and it will be good to go. And then for the little screw that goes in the front, you got cold and hot torque are exactly the same. So you're doing 11 to 15 foot-pounds on that. And of course, don't over tighten. So you can pause this if you need it.